Whether we like it or not, we are terrestrial animals, just like bears, tigers, bats, and mostly beetles. We may be a bit more buttoned up, but we've arrived here at this moment in time through the same relative evolutionary processes. And like these other members of our planet, our lives and all lives on Earth are shaped by plants. Just to highlight the scale here, look at these green boxes there. Plants form the foundation of nearly every ecosystem. In fact, most visible life around us are plants. Roughly 82% of living stuff, or biomass, on Earth is plants. This is more than fungi, humans, animals, and bacteria combined. And the scale of plant biodiversity is also reflected in their species richness. This may come as a surprise, but there are more species of ferns than birds, more mints than mammals, and more beans than butterflies. Really, when it comes to the animals, only the 400,000 beetles or so come close to rivaling plant diversity. So the richness of plant life is staggering. But many people are unfamiliar with the enormous diversity of plant life. There are so many beautiful, fascinating, and surprising stories that plants can teach us. There are over 350,000 described just vascular plants living on Earth today. The staggering diversity, while beautiful, is also essential for life as we know it. So plants provide the raw materials for the homes we live in, the food we eat, and the oxygen we breathe. Even if we're a carnivorous mammal, the pathway eventually leads back to plants. So with the exception of some weird hydrothermal events that I'm not going to talk about today, life as we know it could not exist without plants. So, isn't it funny how we often see plants as the background to animal life? Even here, the first thing you probably saw was this leopard, even though the majority of pixels in this image are actually plants. So this is a cognitive bias called plant awareness disparity, and it's our innate predisposition to be more, focus more on animals than plants. So what I want to discuss with you today is the importance of looking at plants, particularly through the act of botanizing, which is sort of like bird watching, but for plants. And I want to argue that this is not a parochial endeavor, but one that has tangible benefits and helps us better understand and contextualize our lives as humans on this planet. So I think of myself as a missionary for plants. As an assistant professor here at UT, I study evolution and botany with a particular focus on the charismatic ferns. And my method of research starts with what I call active observation. So we often think of scientific research as occurring in the laboratory, but my laboratory is often the forest. It starts there at least. In the laboratory, active observation looks like carefully observing the organism as a living individual, right, in order to understand its structure, its function, and its evolution. So, for instance, one day I was in the field and I was cutting up fern stems, as one does, and I noticed that the arrangement of their vascular tissues, so the sets of tubes that move water and nutrients through their bodies, is arranged in a variety of different ways, some of which look like these whimsical patterns, smiley faces down there. And this led to research looking into the evolution of vascular architecture in ferns. Another time I noticed ants crawling on ferns, and from careful observations I realized that they were producing nectar. The ferns were producing nectar. Instead of enticing bees for pollination, they were enticing ants to be their bodyguards. And this led to a fruitful research project looking into the evolution of fern-insect interactions. Another time I noticed these weird spore-bearing structures sticking up out of the snow, and I figured out that these actually move in response to changes in humidity, and this regulates the timing of spore dispersal. This led to some exciting discoveries that are actually being leveraged by architects and such to make green-inspired or plant-inspired green designs. So this is all to say that careful observation, not just seeing, but actively observing, can be a window into powerful scientific discoveries, right? And we often take for granted what observation is. Sort of seeing isn't always observing. So like active listening, active observation is intentional. And careful observation of plants does not just have to occur in the ivory tower. I spend a lot of time thinking about how to share knowledge beyond academic spaces. So the second hat I wear in my missionary role for plants is as the co-founder of the educational nonprofit Let's Botanize. And our mission here is to spread a passion and curiosity for plants through the hobby of botanizing. And we do this primarily by sharing plant stories and encouraging people to interact with plants. And there's many ways we do this through our monthly natural history essays, a recent book that we just published, and maybe most prominently through our social media videos, which reach hundreds of thousands of people each month. And so an important part of botanizing is that I think it's one of the most accessible natural history hobbies, arguably more than birding. And this is because plants are hyper-diverse, so the game never ends. Plants are everywhere, they're always accessible. Plants can't move for the most part, so you can get really close. And plants are useful to humans, so we're actually much more familiar with them than we maybe think. And botanizing requires nothing more than time, curiosity, and a willingness to look closely, maybe a hand lens. Paying more attention to plants, too, is beneficial to us at 3 scales. So at the individual level, being outside in nature is healthy and good for us and mindful, right? Even Western medicine is starting to prescribe nature walks. At the community level, finding physical third places to spend time and connect in is essential, and that's true now more than ever in our polarized digital world. And at the societal level, appreciating plants can collectively shift our relationship with the rest of life on Earth, allowing us to be better stewards of our planet, helping combat the climate and biodiversity crises. So both my research program and my outreach efforts start at the same place: intentional observation of plants. Slowing down, paying attention, and truly seeing plants is the starting point for both amazing scientific discoveries and for understanding the world that we live in. And so the insights that we gain from plants are immense. Since plants form the foundation to all life on Earth, understanding and appreciating them means understanding ourselves and life as we know it. Simply put, a care for plants is a care for the planet.